Good evening. This is Rebecca on the No Sleep Pod. Sorry, I'm so. Hello, welcome to the Sometimes Drunk podcast. I'm Rebecca, and tonight I'll be doing a Solocast. I'm on my own again, and that's pretty cool. I'm on my own by myself in my room, in my chats, and right now. Anyway, so it's New Year's Eve. It's 2016. Mostly everybody I know is glad to see this year end. We've all got hope for 2017, just as we do every time we enter into a new year. But especially when we haven't had a good year. Sorry. There's some people that I know that are just so tired of hearing about 2016 being a bad year. There's so many people that I know are very tired of just hearing about 2016 in general. And that's all I got to say about that one. But tonight I have decided, and I decided a little while ago, that what I wanted to talk about on this New Year's Eve is the plans that I had made for this year, how they went, and what I plan to do for next year, and how I've revised the goals that I made at the end of last year to be achievable in the coming year. Shout out to the one person watching who just gave this stream a like. Awesome, you're pretty great. Anyway, gonna get started with having a drink. So, last year, I honestly don't quite remember what my goals for this year were. They're probably along the same lines as a lot of the other ones that I have. One of them is to lose weight, one of them is to finish more projects, one of them is to start some projects, that kind of thing. I've had a sort of visual novel in limbo since 2012. I've been working on multiple storylines for at least a decade, some of them newer than others. Some I started this year, some I started when I was in high school or college even. One of my goals was probably to get a different job. A job. I did get a job, but I would prefer to have a different one by the end of next year. One of my goals was probably to move out of my parents' house, but with what I have right now, I can only really afford to, pay my loans. But that's at least something. And hell, I mean, it's like I enrolled for an insurance plan, like a real grown-up, finally being an adult in some capacity. But what have I accomplished this year? This year, I have stayed alive, for one thing. Remarkable considering my very low moment in January, when I was presented with probably the perfect scenario to carry through with some things that I have planned were I to go through with it. But I didn't. So that's good. Because of some recent horror stories I've listened to, sometimes I suspect I did go through with it, and this is just all a dying dream since then. Mostly because I've lost track of a lot of time and all that stuff, but, and it's just kind of like one of those things that you think up when you've been awake for a couple of days and you're kind of drunk or something like that. Besides, it's one of those passing thoughts where you don't believe it with all your heart, but if it turned out to be true, you wouldn't be surprised. Beyond that, what I've done this year is I did some artwork for 2 Homestuck fan albums, the Beforus Album and the Ancestral Album, which has not come out yet. It's still stalled on a couple of works, but I did 3 pieces of track art for each of those. I'll link them in the description when the stream is done. Along with that, what else have I done this year that's of note? I need to a few of the things that I've planned to do: revamping my Patreon, my commission post, my start doing more voice acting, that kind of thing. Producing more content. I've actually recorded a lot of video game footage. And I have it all on my computer. I just need to convert it and watch it and edit it. In that regard, in terms of video games, a few of the things that I've actually played this year that I'm really happy about, I played Undertale a lot. I might have played it at the end of last year too, but it's been a while. I still haven't beaten Sans, which is a sore spot for me. I played a lot of Stardew Valley, and I played a lot of Overwatch, and Overwatch has, I think, been the high point in terms of video games for me. Homestuck ended this year, I believe. Yeah, Homestuck ended this year, but the hype for that has not gone down even a little bit. Hive Swap comes out next month. Ukulele comes out next year, which I'm pretty hyped about. I contributed to that Kickstarter, and as a huge fan of Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, I cannot be happier to just see that this is going to come out soon. I'm glad that Hive Swap finally has, like, a solid, release time. So maybe, if I finally dive into the world of doing Let's Plays, one of those games will be the first ones that I do. I want to do some better video editing. I've had a lot of ambitious things that I wanted to do this year, and I don't think I really did much of it, but a lot of the things that I did for myself this year. I think the best thing that I did for myself this year is that I can now regularly go to therapy, which is really great, actually. I've only been going for the last 3 weeks minus last week. I've gone for 3 weeks so far, and it's already made a huge improvement. And that's actually part of all my goals next year, is to sort of quantify it and set myself some weekly goals. Just the last year is kind of a blur to me, and when I look back, it was a really long time. When you're experiencing it, it just goes by really, really, really fast, and it feels like it's just slipping through your fingers and that you're just getting older. That kind of thing. And for a long time now, I just feel like I've been aging rapidly without really even having a chance to experience it. So that's kind of what's informing a lot of the things that I want to do next year, especially creatively. And what you do with that kind of thing is you start small. You start with some small steps, or what you consider achievable steps, and then you resolve from there on. Just resolve to take that first step for whatever you want to do. You know? Like, there's a lot of projects I want to finish. There's a lot of things that I want to do. I want to, I don't know, write a song of some sort. But I think my first step for that is learn to use the program that I have. Learn to use my keyboard that I have. Learn how to read music. That kind of thing. Learn some music theory, I don't know. But I think the first thing that I should learn is how to read music and how to play it. And I think that's a reasonable enough goal. By the end of the year, ideally, the goal that I have in mind is to write something, no matter how bad or how stupid or how little it is. I think I would like to compose a piece of music. And that would be a huge first step for me, like, in general, but I'm breaking it down into the smaller step of at least learning how to play my dang keyboard. Because I could just, like, noodle around on it right now, but I've always wanted to learn music. What I want to do is I want to get a demo, like, level for the game that I've been concepting, Tethered. I want to get that out, but I think I have to break it down even more into outline that first level. Outline the game itself, you know, at least get the story down and the mechanics down, that kind of thing. Just on a conceptual level, just solidify it as best as I can. I want to start my webcomic bromance, and that would be great. But what do I do beyond that? I think at least outlining the story, getting the designs together, and thumbnailing it would be great. I could make, or you know what, even my one first step is making that post on my What We Need to Know blog that I was talking about last week. Make a post on there so that I can finally get some stuff hammered out about Samir's family and his character, so that I can outline the whole goddamn thing. And what's nice about that is I could probably just proceed as normal and just get that sorted out as I'm thumbnailing. Another thing that I would love to do is, for smaller, more habitual things, I would like to start doing some life drawing more. I joined the website on the recommendation of my therapist. I joined the site Meetup, and I found a life drawing, a group that meets up every Tuesday for life drawing. So that's something that I haven't done in literal years, and I really, really sorely miss it. So that's one of my goals, is to do some more life drawing. Not just the Pixel Lovely Lake website, but just having a model in front of you for like 3 hours is a huge difference, and it's a huge help. So getting back into the basics, working on my foundations again, that would be great. I'd like to be able to draw scenery, so returning to all the basics and brushing up would be great. One of the things I also want to do is finish the French course on Duolingo, but my first goal, my first step is to strengthen all my skills to gold on Duolingo and keep it that way. I'm a long way into my French lessons, almost 50% of the way, more like 40% of the way through it, and I would like to complete that. I've had a couple of drinks already. It's New Year's. It's going to be a good time. We're only 12 minutes into this cast. I wish it was going faster. I'm stumbling over my words a lot. I want to also finish more pictures this year. I think my greatest achievement of this year, 2016, is the Sona Lisa. What I want to also do within the first week of the new year is finish the commissions that I've been leaving sitting. After that, I'd like to update my commission post and start reblogging that around again. There's a lot of writing I want to do. I would like to outline the huge ass Mikanzo fic that I've been concepting, because that would be great. I should probably keep the tone light, keep it comedic, just figure out what tone I want to go for it. I want to be more fandom involved. I want to be more involved on my social media. I want to be able to keep my website regularly updated. I want to keep my room regularly cleaned. There's a lot of stuff that we want in life, and there's a lot of stuff that we want to do. And the new year makes you think about the time that's passed and the time that you still have in front of you. And back in January of this year, there very well could have been no time in front of me. Just none left. And after the way 2016 is, that's just how it went for a lot of people, tragically. But the fact of the matter is that there's still time before me. Still stuff to do. So why not plan for it? I want to do some traveling this year. I would like to start making more money this year. I would like to have a better online presence this year. That kind of thing. I had a lot of lows. I had a lot of breakdowns this past year. I got into such a bad emotional state that I couldn't get up for a while. I had to call out of work a few times. But I've been working since March, so I have that. There's a lot of stuff on my desk. I'm getting distracted very easy. Just sometimes I think about stuff that happened earlier this year, and it feels like it happened decades ago. But at the same time, I think about what happened just a month ago, and it feels like it happened yesterday. Time's a funny thing. One of the things that I want to do in this coming year is I want to go to Santa Fe and drive from there to Phoenix, and then fly back home here in New Jersey. I still want to move out of the house, but I don't think I'll accomplish that this year. But, you know, before I could do a solo trip to Santa Fe and drive between Santa Fe and Phoenix, I would have to learn how to be able to see how I can handle driving long distances. So I have a trip planned with my sister to go up to Canada in, I think, like February. I'm going to go down to maybe Myrtle Beach sometime this year. Have some fun. Just long car drives. in the end, I'm a very tired person, and I really wish that I had somebody to bounce off of for this kind of thing. I could have easily made this a very short podcast. I really could have just kept this to from 8 to 9. Hell, I could have just canceled this week and said, fuck it, man. I want to just sleep, or I want to just, like, do a live stream or something like that. Hell, I even have Times Square, like, a stream for Times Square and the ball dropping, in another tab for when it is midnight on a stream that I'm going to do after this. Just so that nobody misses it. I wonder if they do countdowns for every hour after it, that it becomes a new year in another time zone. Because I saw, as I was starting this one, that they do a countdown for every hour leading up to it. 4 hours to go. But who knows? Who knows? Hello, single viewer. You are quite a trooper for staying here for the first 15 minutes. It feels like an eternity to me. And I need to get drunker. I need to get drunker. That is the plain fact of the matter. I've had all kind of the wind sucked out of my sails right before this, and I haven't been able to really recover very well, so I do apologize in advance. Just, you can't be happy about seeing the year end. You just can't, apparently. Dead air. Anyway, one of my accomplishments for this year, too, is to do some more narration. One of those things that I would like to narrate, that I actually decided earlier today, is the ever so lovely and hilarious Hyperbole and a Half blog. And I did record some earlier today. And thinking about how it would look in my head, I think that it would be a lot of fun. And I've actually been considering reading some of it on Cast Tonight. I didn't really bill it as something that I would do, but I think it would actually be something very nice to do to bring in the new year. And actually, I think one of the nice things about it is I've been a fan of Hyperbole and a Half for years, while it was still active, even. And one of the first things that my therapist actually brought up when I was there, she recommended to me the Depression series of it. And I feel like that whole bit was actually really, really very close to my heart, to be honest. And so I think perhaps it would be fitting to read it because of the depression that I had this year. It wasn't as long, it wasn't as intense as Miss Brosh's, but it's something that I definitely have felt before. It's something that I definitely identified with, and I think that it could actually be quite fun. Just something to do for the new year while I sit here having no idea what to do. Let's see. I should have planned for this better, of course. Of course. But, let's see what we could do. Let's see what we could do. The thing of it also is you need to read the first part, Adventures in Depression. Because that was when her depression began, and it was later in, like, her depression that she described started in 2011, and it ended in, well, it didn't end, but the second part came out in, 2013. Where's the... There we go. I need to bring back the jingle palette for next year. So please ignore the sounds of, ignore the sounds of... Oh! Oh! Okay, that's actually, pretty helpful. I just see here. Okay. This is easier than I thought it would be. I don't need to save everything out individually. That's a relief. Actually, a huge relief. Nice. Alright, so we're going to add ourselves a source here. Now, if it could not be a piece of shit, that would be great too. Alright. Now, there's something I need to do for this, so bear with me. I'm just going to move the mic for a moment. Shit! Okay, I've got wires and shit everywhere, man. This is part of being a piece of shit. And anybody who tries to ever tell me that I'm not a piece of shit, you're just kidding yourself, man. I'm not saying it to get sympathy or to make people feel bad for me. The simple fact of the matter is, I'm a piece of shit. And that's how it goes. So, let's see. I had not planned on this, but it should be fun. I really think it should. And if anyone does get confused about what's happening here, I'll pop out this chat. I'll narrate everything I'm doing, of course. And here we go. Yes. This is so great. Oh my gosh, this is so great. I didn't even realize that you could just click on the images on this site. Wow. Okay. So, in the spirit of the new year and things changing, and in the spirit of my seeking better mental health, we're going to go with Ali Brosh's Adventures in Depression. Some people have a legitimate reason to feel depressed, but not me. I just woke up one day feeling sad and helpless for absolutely no reason. No. It's disappointing to feel sad for no reason. Sadness can almost be pleasantly indulgent when you have a way to justify it. You can listen to sad music and imagine yourself as the protagonist of a dramatic movie. You can gaze out the window while you were crying and think, "This is so sad. I can't even believe how sad this whole situation is. I bet even a reenactment of my sadness could bring an entire theater audience to tears." But my sadness didn't have a purpose. Listening to sad music and imagining that my life was a movie just made me feel kind of weird because I couldn't really get behind the idea of a movie where the character is sad for no reason. I really don't know why any of this is happening. Essentially, I was being robbed of my right to self-pity, which is the only redeeming part of sadness. And for a little bit, that was a good enough reason to pity myself. Let me see, this is working right. Right, good. Standing around feeling sorry for myself was momentarily exhilarating, but I grew tired of it quickly. That will do, I thought. I've had my fun. Let's move on to something else now. But the sadness didn't go away. I tried to force myself to not be sad. Stop it. Stop being sad. Right now. Stop. Get up. If you don't stop being sad right now, Get up. But trying to use willpower to overcome the apathetic sort of sadness that accompanies depression is like a person with no arms trying to punch themselves until their hands grow back. A fundamental component of the plan is missing, and it isn't going to work. If you don't stop being sad right now, I'm going to turn on the garbage disposal and listen to the sound until it makes you cooperate. When I couldn't will myself to not be sad, I became frustrated and angry. In a final desperate attempt to regain power over myself, I turned to shame as a sort of motivational tool. Breaking the action for now? Hi, Siggy! My buddy Siggy has shown up. There are now 2 people watching. For anybody who just joined us, I have decided to read Ali Brosh's Adventures in Depression because I relate to it pretty hard. Anyway, hey, what are you doing? Are you crying? Why are you crying? Why are you crying? Did you know that some people have pets that are dead and some people have diseases and tumors? The worst thing that has happened to you in the last 3 days is tearing the spout on your chocolate milk. But since I was depressed, this tactic was less inspirational and more just a way to oppress myself with hatred. Maybe I'll go outside today. Nope, I hate myself too much. Which made me more sad. Which then made me more frustrated and abusive. What are you doing back there? I hate you! And that made me even more sad, and so on and so forth until the only way to adequately express my sadness was to crawl very slowly across the floor. Where are you trying to go, sad legs? There's nothing over there. Do you even know what you're doing? The self-loathing and shame had ceased to even be slightly productive. But it was too late to go back at that point, so I just kept going, and I followed myself around like a bully, narrating my thoughts and actions with the constant stream of abuse. Oh, well, looks like somebody likes pasta. How original. When you were a child, is this what you dreamt of being? A sad person holding a fork? Well, good job, fork grabber. You did it. Try not to cry on your pasta. Hey, is that a chair? Shut up, I hate you. Why do you need to go outside? Is it more fun to make that stupid face out there? Do you want to play a game? The game is called Stand in a Corner and Look Stupid. Ready? You win! Are you going into the kitchen? Cool. Go fuck yourself. I spent months shut in my house, surfing the internet on top of a pile of my own dirty laundry, which I sat on the couch for just a second because I experienced a sudden moment of apathy on my way to the washer and couldn't continue. And then, 2 weeks later, I still hadn't completed that journey. But who cares? It wasn't like I had been showering regularly, and sitting on a pile of clothes isn't necessarily uncomfortable. But even if it was, I couldn't feel anything through the self-hatred anyway, so it didn't matter. Just like everything else. Slowly, my feelings started to shrivel up. The few that managed to survive the constant beating staggered around like a wounded baby deer, just biding their time until they could die and join all the other carcasses strewn across the wasteland of my soul. I couldn't even muster up the enthusiasm to hate myself anymore. Hey there, typey hands. Just typing some words in the dark by yourself? That's neat. You should... What if... Fuck it. Do what you want. I drifted around, completely unsure of what I was feeling or whether I could actually feel anything at all. I feel like a computer. If my life was a movie, the turning point of my depression would have been inspirational and meaningful. It would have involved wisdom-filled epiphanies about discovering my true self, and I would conquer my demons and go on to live out the rest of my life in happiness. Instead, my turning point mostly hinged upon the fact that I had rented some movies, and then I didn't return them for too long. The late fees had reached a point where the injustice of paying any more than I already owed outweighed my apathy. I considered just keeping the movies and never going to the video store again, but then I remembered I still wanted to rewatch Jumanji. I put on some clothes, put the movies in my backpack, and biked to the video store. It was the slowest, most resentful bike ride ever. And when I arrived, I found out they didn't even have Jumanji in. Just as I was debating whether I should settle on a movie that wasn't Jumanji or go home and stare in abject silence, I noticed a woman looking at me weirdly from a couple of rows over. She was probably looking at me that way because I looked really, really depressed and I was dressed like an Eskimo vagrant. Normally, I would have felt an instant crushing sense of self-consciousness, but instead, I felt nothing. I always wanted to not give a fuck. While crying helplessly into my pillow for no good reason, I would often fantasize that maybe someday I could be one of those stoic badasses whose emotions were mostly comprised of rock music and not being afraid of things. And finally, after a lifetime of feelings and anxiety and more feelings, I didn't have any feelings left. I had spent my last feeling being disappointed that I couldn't rent Jumanji. I felt invincible. Judge me all you want, stupid face. I don't have feelings anymore. And thus began a tiny rebellion. I can do anything. Maybe I'll rent a horror movie. Maybe I'll rent 6 horror movies. I would like to rent all of these movies and also purchase all of these Skittles. Having a party, eh? Nope. Hey, do you think you could load me up? Thanks. Then I swooped out of there like the Batman and biked home in a blaze of defiant glory. Who knows? Maybe I'll touch a spider later. And that's how my depression got so horrible that it actually broke through to the other side and became a sort of fear-proof exoskeleton. Nothing can do anything to me! And that is part 1 in the Adventures in Depression. What we have is part 2, which is the one that I feel like most adequately explains depression in a way, you know? And that's always been one of the best things about Hyperbole and a Half. It's just really relatable, and I like the way that she writes so much. It's goals for me, man. Anyway, Depression, part 2. This was posted about 1.5 years after the last part that I just read. By Ali Brosh. For those who are just joining us, I am reading The Adventures in Depression from Hyperbole and a Half by Miss Ali Brosh. Depression Part 2. I remember being endlessly entertained by the adventures of my toys. Some days they died repeated violent deaths, and other days they traveled to space or discussed my swim lessons, and how I absolutely should be allowed in the deep end of the pool, especially since I was such a talented doggy paddler. I bet you could swim across a whole lake. You're right, I could. Thanks, Plane. I didn't understand why it was fun for me. It just was. Whee! But as I grew older, it became harder and harder to access that expansive imaginary space that made all my toys fun. I remember looking at them and feeling sort of frustrated and confused that things weren't the same. Whee! I played out all of the same storylines that had been fun before, but the meaning had disappeared. Horse's big space adventure transformed into holding a plastic horse in the air, hoping it would somehow be enjoyable for me. Prehistoric Crazy Bus Death Ride was just smashing a toy bus full of dinosaurs into the wall while feeling sort of bored and unfulfilled. I could no longer connect to my toys in a way that allowed me to participate in the experience. Depression feels almost exactly like that, except about everything. At first, though, the invulnerability that accompanied the detachment was exhilarating, at least as exhilarating as something can be without involving real emotions. I feel nothing! The beginning of my depression had been nothing but feelings, so the emotional deadening that followed was a welcome relief. I had always wanted to not give a fuck about anything. I viewed feelings as a weakness, annoying obstacles on my quest for total power over myself, and I finally didn't have to feel them anymore. But my experiences slowly flattened and blended together until it became obvious that there was a huge difference between not giving a fuck and not being able to give a fuck. Cognitively, you might know that different things are happening to you, but they don't feel very different. Sun, birthday, sounds, not sounds, your hair is spiders, everything is spiders. Which leads to horrible, soul-decaying boredom. I wonder what today is going to be like. Oh, nothing again. Okay. I tried to get out more, but most fun activities just left me existentially confused or frustrated with my inability to enjoy them. For the past 3 hours, I've been knocking things over with a ball. What's the point? Does it matter? Does anything matter? Months oozed by, and I gradually came to accept that maybe enjoyment was not a thing that I got to feel anymore. I didn't want anyone to know, though. I was still sort of uncomfortable about how bored and detached I felt around other people, and I was still holding out hope that the whole thing would spontaneously work itself out. As long as I could manage to not alienate anyone, everything might be okay. However, I could no longer rely on genuine emotion to generate facial expressions, and when you have to spend every social interaction consciously manipulating your face into shapes that are only approximately the right ones, alienating people is inevitable. So I did that triathlon. How do you make the face for yay? Am I doing it? I hope I'm doing it. Yeah, some guy had a heart attack and drowned. Uh-oh, sad face, sad face. Can you believe that? I'm doing the wrong face, I'm sure of it. Oh well. Oh. Everyone noticed. What are you doing? Interacting with you. It's weird for people who still have feelings to be around depressed people. They try to help you have feelings again so things can go back to normal, and it's frustrating for them when it doesn't happen. From their perspective, it just seems like there has got to be some untapped source of happiness within you that you've simply lost track of. And if you could just see how beautiful things are. You should do yoga while watching the sunrise. It's literally impossible to feel negative and sad while appreciating the wonder of the universe. At first, I tried to explain that it's not really negativity or sadness anymore. It's more just this detached, meaningless fog where you can't feel anything about anything. Even the things you love, even fun things. And you're horribly bored and lonely. But since you've lost your ability to connect with any of the things that would normally make you feel less bored and lonely, you're stuck in the boring, lonely, meaningless void without anything to distract you from how boring, lonely, and meaningless it is. Oh, are you trying to get away? Go see what's over there. Surprise! It's nothing! But what's in that hole? But what's in the hole? What is it? What's in there? It's nothing! But people want to help, so they try harder to make you feel hopeful and positive about the situation. So you explain it again, hoping they'll at least try a less hope-centric approach. But re-explaining your total inability to experience joy inevitably sounds kind of negative. Like maybe you want to be depressed. The positivity starts coming out in a spray, a giant, desperate happiness sprinkler pointed directly at your face, and it keeps going like that until you're having this weird argument where you're trying to convince the person that you are far too hopeless for hope, and they'll just give up on their optimism crusade and let you go back to feeling bored and lonely by yourself. Positivity, hope, yay, and joy, hope, beauty, and love. Are you taunting me? Is this some weird game where you name all the things I can't do? Sorry. And that's the most frustrating thing about depression. It isn't always something that you can fight back against with hope. It isn't even something. It's nothing. And you can't combat nothing. You can't fill it up. You can't cover it. It's just there, pulling the meaning out of everything. That being the case, all the hopeful, proactive solutions start to sound completely insane in contrast to the scope of the problem. It would be like having a bunch of dead fish, but no one around you will acknowledge that the fish are dead. Instead, they offer to help you look for the fish or try to help you figure out why they disappeared. What's wrong? My fish are dead. Don't worry, I'll help you find them. Are there any clues where they went? I know where they are. The problem is they aren't alive anymore. Let's keep looking. I'm sure they'll turn up somewhere. No, see, that solution is for a different problem than the one I have. The problem might not even have a solution, but you aren't necessarily looking for a solution. You're maybe just looking for someone to say, sorry about how dead your fish are, or, wow, those are super dead. I still like you, though. Fish are always deadest before dawn. Have you tried feeding them? You used to have so many fish. What happened? We should get together this weekend and make fun little finger puppets out of them. What about bees? Do you like bees? Why not just make them be alive again? Why can't anyone see how dead these are? I started spending more time alone. It's okay, fish. It's gonna be okay. Perhaps it was because I lacked the emotional depth necessary to panic, or maybe my predicament didn't feel dramatic enough to make me suspicious. But I somehow managed to convince myself that everything was still under my control right up until I noticed myself wishing that nothing loved me so I wouldn't feel obligated to keep existing. You are so beautiful. How are you so beautiful and good? It's a strange moment. It's a strange moment when you realize you don't want to be alive anymore. If I had feelings, I'm sure I would have felt surprised. I've spent the vast majority of my life actively attempting to survive, ever since my most distant single-celled ancestor squiggled into existence. There's been an unbroken chain of things that wanted to stick around. What are you doing? Stop! No, I am not for eating. Not today. I got legs, motherfucker. Yet here I was, casually wishing that I could stop existing in the same way you'd want to leave an empty room or mute an unbearably repetitive noise. That wasn't the worst part, though. The worst part was deciding to keep going. Well, I should probably do something. When I say that deciding not to kill myself was the worst part, I should clarify I don't mean it in a retrospective sense. From where I am now, it seems like a solid enough decision. But at the time, it felt like I had been dragging myself through the most miserable, endless wasteland, and far in the distance, I had seen the promising glimmer of a slightly less miserable wasteland, and for just a moment, I thought maybe I'd be able to stop and rest. But as soon as I arrived at the border of the less miserable wasteland, I found out I'd have to turn around and walk back the other way. You know what? Fuck it. Let's go walk past more rocks and sand. Why not? Soon afterward, I discovered there's no tactful or comfortable way to inform other people you might be suicidal. And there's definitely no way to ask for help casually. Knock knock joke? No, too casual. Also might be interpreted as joke. Yell, run away. Hey, I might do something bad to myself. Pros, don't have to be there for fallout. Cons, confusing and alarming. Right on face, wait for someone to notice. Maybe, but face probably not big enough. I didn't want it to be a big deal. However, it's an alarming subject. Trying to be nonchalant about it just makes it weird for everyone. Hey, guess what? I was also extremely ill-prepared for the position of comforting people. The things that seemed reassuring at the time weren't necessarily comforting to others. No, see, I don't necessarily want to kill myself. I just want to become dead somehow. Shh, it's okay. Life is meaningless anyway. I'm really sorry. Can I get you some juice or something? I had so very few feelings, and everyone else had so many, and it felt like they were having all of them in front of me at once. I didn't really know what to do, so I agreed to see a doctor so that everyone would stop having all of their feelings at me. If I go to a doctor, will you stop making that sound? Yes. The next few weeks were a haze of talking to relentlessly hopeful people about my feelings that didn't exist so I could be prescribed medication that might help me have them again. Well, it's all up from here. Look, guy, I don't know what it's like and I still have meaning in my life land, but every direction looks like bullshit right now. And every direction was bullshit for a long time, especially up. The absurdity of working so hard to continue doing something you don't like can be overwhelming. And the longer it takes to feel different, the more it starts to seem like everything might actually be hopeless bullshit. What if the entire future is full of only horrible, boring things? That would be too many. My feelings did start to return eventually, but not all of them came back, and they didn't arrive symmetrically. I had not been able to care for a very long time, and when I finally started being able to care about things again, I hated them. But hatred is technically a feeling, and my brain latched onto it like a child learning a new word. I hate sun! I hate purple! I hate me! Hating everything made all the positivity and hope feel even more unpalatable. The syrupy, oversimplified optimism started to feel almost offensive. I know exactly how you feel. Delicate and vulnerable, like you'll crumble at any moment. But stay strong. It gets better. Thankfully, I rediscovered crying just before I got sick of hating things. I call this emotion crying and not sadness because that's all it really was, just crying for the sake of crying. My brain had partially learned how to be sad again, but it took the feeling out for a joyride before it had learned how to use the brakes or steer. Hey there, is that juice? Yeah. Why are you crying? I don't know, it's just something that's happening. At some point during this phase, I was crying on the kitchen floor for no reason. As was common practice during bouts of floor crying, I was staring straight ahead at nothing in particular and feeling sort of weird about myself. Then, through the film of tears and nothingness, I spotted a tiny, shriveled piece of corn under the refrigerator. I don't claim to know why this happened, but when I saw the piece of corn, something snapped. And then that thing twisted through a few permutations of logic that I don't understand and produced the most confusing bout of uncontrollable, debilitating laughter that I have ever experienced. I had absolutely no idea what was going on. Why did the corn cause this to happen? Eyes accidentally pass over the space underneath the refrigerator. Brain ignores the more relevant things it could be thinking about and instead focuses on tiny, unimportant piece of corn. Something I don't understand occurs. Corn plus floor equals clorn, carry the F, multiply by how alone the corn is, perform a twisting maneuver, generate laughter. Laughter happens. It is a surprise. The element of surprise allows the laughter to circle back on itself. Creates infinite laughter loop. Stupid tiny piece of corn is now funniest thing in universe. Nothing is funnier than dumb little piece of corn. My brain had apparently been storing every unfelt scrap of happiness from the last 19 months, and it had impulsively decided to unleash all of it at once in what would appear to be an act of vengeance. You want to be happy? Fine! I'll make you happy! To death! That piece of corn is the funniest thing I have ever seen, and I cannot explain to anyone why it's funny. I don't even know why. If someone ever asks me, what was the exact moment where things started to feel slightly less shitty, instead of telling a nice, heartwarming story about the support of the people who loved and believed in me, I'm going to have to tell them about the piece of corn. And then I'm going to have to try to explain that no, really, it was funny. Because see, the way the corn was sitting on the floor, it was so alone, and it was just sitting there. And no matter how I explain it, I'll get the same confused look. So maybe I'll try to show them the piece of corn to see if they'll get it. They won't. Look, they won't. Things will get even weirder. Look how tiny and shriveled it is. It was all by itself. Why aren't you laughing yet? Anyway, I wanted to end this on a hopeful, positive note, but seeing as how my sense of hope and positivity is still shrouded in a thick layer of feeling like hope and positivity are bullshit, I'll just say this. Nobody can guarantee that it's going to be okay, but, and I don't know if this will be comforting to anyone else, the possibility exists that there's a piece of corn on the floor somewhere that will make you just as confused about why you're laughing and as you have ever been about why you were depressed. And even if everything still seems like hopeless bullshit, maybe it is just pointless bullshit, or weird bullshit, or possibly not even bullshit. Maybe everything isn't hopeless bullshit. I don't know, but when you're concerned that the miserable, boring wasteland in front of you might stretch all the way into forever, not knowing feels strangely hope-like. And that was Adventures in Depression Part 2 by Ali Brosh. And I have to say, that was one of the best things that I'd ever read, to be honest, because it was she put into words so well what depression felt like. And I always think of that when I'm having it, you know? And I thought about that in the last year sometimes. And in the coming year, one of the things that I want to do is try narrating, some of her blog posts, because they've been such an inspiration to me. Her style of writing is something that I really like. And it's just, it feels so conversational, but it's so over the top and dramatic, and I love it. It's so theatrical. There's a lot of really good ones. I even definitely, bought her book, too. I have that downstairs somewhere. Time to mix another drink. I haven't drunk as much today as I usually do on podcast days. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Who knows? It's just a thing. As usual, what I'm drinking is Diet Dr. Pepper with peach vodka. One of my goals for the coming year is to vary up my drink menu. Another thing with this year is I want to finally redesign the logo there for Sometimes Drunk. I'd like to get this channel a lot more organized. I'd like to get our Tumblr much more organized. And I would like to actually, like, expand the Tumblr into... Oh dear. I'm drinking a lot of this. Fun fact, along with the bottle that I am currently pouring from, which is about half empty, I have 2 other empty bottles. So I'm going on to 3 bottles of vodka, in this run. 7 weeks in. Almost 2 months. And this is, I think, the most consistent I've ever been with anything. One of the hardest parts for me here to stay consistent is other people insisting I do stuff, you know? Like, it's New Year's, and I really kind of also just don't want to go downstairs and hang out. And that's something that I need to learn, is just to have more self-discipline, but also I need to learn when can be an okay time to sort of dip out, you know? I want this to be consistent. And I think as I expand into inviting other people on, if I could talk to Miche sometime about getting the tech set up, if their computer can handle it, actually. Then if Miche ever wanted to do a solo podcast or do a solo on one of the every other week, then that would be cool, I think. Maybe Seminole Croatian, who knows. Either way, I think it's just as more people end up on this podcast, that's one of my goals for the new year. Less solo casts and more guest casts. I'd like to have Supa back for another few casts. I'd like to have my buddy Siggy on some. I'd like to ask my friend PB if she'd like to be on a few. I have one of my buddies, Joe. She's great. She does great music. It's like I'll link all these people below because I'm shouting out to them. Just and I've asked a few people, Joe, Siggy, and Supa included, if they would like to be on podcasts sometime, and I think that would be great. Just there's a lot of people I know that I admire and that I think that there's a lot of good episodes to be had, a lot of good advice to be had. I feel pretty bad because these last few solo casts have been unfocused and it hasn't been very much to do with art, honestly. And my solo casts, quite frankly, aren't very popular. But maybe I should just link them more. Either way, at the end of the day, I would like to be more successful, and I would like to spend this next year being more successful in my online presence. And I think pretty much the overarching, sort of thing that encompasses all of my goals is just learning self-discipline. And that's one of the things that can make your entire, list of resolutions better. If there's one common thing that just connects everything together, something that's some common thread that you need to improve on in general just to be able to accomplish your goals, look at that. For me, being more productive, putting out more content, going out more, losing weight, developing different habits, eating better, not eating as much, keep doing my podcast as consistently as I can, fixing up my Patreon. All of it just takes a lot of self-control and discipline. So if I really, really want to get everything sort of squared away for myself, my base problems, what I need to do in small steps, ways to control myself, I would need to just work on my self-discipline and self-control and my willpower. I have to learn not to give in to my emotional eating. I have to learn to develop, habits. I have to start doing my time management. All of that would just help me. If I could just put it as part of my morning ritual. Wake up, do French lesson, do life drawing, then, brush teeth, shower, that kind of thing. If I just insert things into my morning ritual, That would just be enough. So, and everything follows from that. Like, if when I come home, I decide I need to do some drawing, or I need to do some writing, or, like, do some food shopping so that I have some healthier options. Just that kind of thing. What it comes down to is think about what you want to accomplish in general. Think of how you want your life to change, and look into what kind of common threads that has. In this past year, I have not been good about it because I kept thinking, oh, I'll start doing that again next week. Oh, I'll start thinking about this again tomorrow. Oh, I'll just do it another time. I kept putting stuff off. And here I am, December 31st, almost 9 p.m., talking about everything. I think one of the best things that happened this year is finally deciding to go through with doing this podcast. And I also feel bad because I feel like I took it over completely. But, all we can do is just think about what's best for us and try to do what we can with it. Is there any of my watchers right now, any comments, questions, anything you want to ask about the coming year, about the past year, anything you want to share? Anybody want to join on mic? That kind of thing. And of course, there's about a 10-second lag, and dead air is not like a fun thing that you really want going on. But hey, I'm only 7 episodes in. I've had to do a lot of these alone. By the end of 2017, I'd like to have, at most, the same amount of solo casts as I did this year. Which I think is 3 or 4. Oh, I'm looking at it now. It's 4. And I foolishly decided that today's going to be a full cast, not a short cast, too. Either way, I think in the coming week what I'm going to do is I'm going to start listing off topics. I'm going to start listing off people. I'll probably put together a more comprehensive schedule of who will appear and what we'll talk about. One of the things that I still have trouble with, especially when I'm doing a cast alone, is that I underestimate the amount of time I overestimate the amount of time that I'll take to discuss a certain topic. And it ends up being more a vague concept and me umming and ahhing my way through everything, trying desperately to find something to talk about. And that's one of the things that I might talk about someday, like when I'm more experienced about this and I have everything sorted out and I have my shit settled, is I'll be able to talk about getting this shit together. I've got some goals in this year too. I think that if I reach some certain tiers on my Patreon, if I reach certain tiers on my Patreon, it might even also have something to do with trying to develop like a website for this kind of content, which would be great. In the year coming up, there's a flash that I want to finish. Aforementioned awesome person, Joe, I did one of the I did the album art for one of her songs for Beforus, which is how I met her, and I would like to do a flash to it. And for those who are unfamiliar, I think it would be nice if we could have a look at that. Accompanying it is going to be a speed paint. There we go. So, let's see if I could get this. You know what I might as well do for that? I guess what I'm saying here is end of the year it seems to be for showing off some work. So one of those will be, gosh, this is one of the things, I really need to plan out all my content so that I can get all my screen regions squared away. One day I will have this down to a science and it'll be freaking creepy how nailed down this shit is. Let's add that screen capture. Shit. Yeah, no, I did not mean to do that. Okay then, so without further ado, part of my resolution for the next year is to work on a flash for this song. Accompanied right now. So this song is by my friend Joe, and I will, as this plays, I will grab a link to her Soundcloud. That was wrong of me. Alrighty. So that song from Beforus Album was about the fight between Mina and Damara, and I did the album art for it. But while I was listening to it, when I do any album art, I listen to the song on repeat until I'm finished. By the way, if you look down in the description below, I just added a link to Joe's SoundCloud, Psithurist on SoundCloud, the Out SpeedPaint I just showed, and the Beforus album that the song itself is from. And, well, in addition to that, Joe's music just, in general, there's a lot of very good visuals to it, if you ask me. I'll play some of her Homestuck music in the background, actually, for a little bit. At a very low level. I just have to say that I absolutely adore her music, and it gives me some strong visuals, and I can't talk enough about go to her SoundCloud and listen to it. But she is a lovely young gal, and I think that she just does a lot of really good work, and I can't point to people who do good work enough. Puppy barks, you know what that means. You can't be mad at a puppy barking when you see what that puppy looks like. So ignore the fact that it's mighty unprofessional to have that kind of sound stuff going on. Either way, I have some plans for a bunch of flashes in the coming year. But the first one that I really want to finish that feels doable to me is Time Out. And I've been building assets for that. I do have it all planned out, like, moment by moment. So that should be fun. Pepper is a small boy with a strong voice. So, tiny audience of 3. We've got about 20 minutes going here. Is there anything anybody would like to ask, comment on, advise, anything like that? If not, that's fine. Anyway, continuing. What does the new year bring? What works do I want to do? I've already mentioned Time Out. There's also one I want to do to another one of Joe's songs on Beforus, the one that's playing right now, the Matuna Method, because that one gives me some strong visuals. I kind of also want to do, I want to do a lot of Homestuck flashes, basically, but I also want to evoke the feeling of Act 5 stuff. I honestly would like to do a Rex Duodecim Angelus flash of my own, even though I know that there was like a very extensive fan project for it, but it's one that I've been having like visuals for since I first heard it before that project went underway. I'm pretty sure any given Homestuck fan has that, you know? But I don't know. Just I want to do a lot of fan projects. I want to finish my outfit gifts for Homestuck. I want to finish my dancing like series for my dancing alternate fashion series for Steven Universe, like I did for Pearl, the Pearl Avalanche. I just want to be able to act on all of the artistic impulses that I have, because I feel like that something's holding me back, that I have so many ideas that I'll never have the time to do all of it, and I'd never have the energy to do what I want. And that's just the most demotivating thing ever. And part of that is I have to start forcing myself to do these things, so that even when I don't have the energy for it, I still have the will for it. And Pepper has stopped barking, which is good. Because I admire that in some of the people that I know, is that even when they're feeling lousy, they're still able to force themselves to do things. and to create things, and I admire that, and I wish that I'd started forcing myself into that practice while I was still in college. Maybe I could come out of it with a career or a more respectable reel. Which is also another goal of mine for this year, to produce a new animation reel. Because I don't think I've had a legitimate reel since 2013, as embarrassing as that is to say. So this year, I'm going to shake off all the rust that I can. I'm going to do some animation basics. I'm going to do some life drawing basics. I'm going to cover all the basics, the foundations that I learned back in school, because that's what I need to do. I'm going to try to get back into 3D artwork this year. I'm going to try to do 3D animation again. The things I was good at in 3D was animation, lighting, and rigging. I wasn't quite so good at modeling. I was garbage at texturing. Because as much as I'm able to, like, take apart something made of fabric and recreate it, I cannot take apart a 3D model and create a texture for it to save my life. So, what I want to learn this year is how to use Maya again, but also how to use Sculptress and ZBrush. I have a lot of tutorial videos for that, so it should be easy enough to follow. And I think I'd like to learn how to use Photoshop better. I have a couple of programs. I have Storyboard Pro, I have TV Paint, I have PX Tone for music. I have a lot of programs that have just been collecting dust for a few years, but I should probably learn how to use. Instead of sitting around playing Stardew Valley like a piece of shit. I should properly learn how to use Adobe Premiere over After Effects for some of the simpler stuff that I want to do. I should see what I can do with Audacity to its fullest extent. I should see what other programs I could use in place of Audacity. There's just so much I want to do, and it all comes down to self-discipline and willpower. And this will be like an embarrassing footnote. This entire podcast, will be an embarrassing footnote a few months down. But I think it helps give me some sort of direction, some stability. I don't know what it might mean to Miche. I don't know what my constant mispronunciation of her name means to her. I think maybe we might bump up the time that we start. I think it would be best for her, to be quite honest, if we bumped it up from 8 to 9 to 7 to 8. So that it wasn't so goddamn late there. Either way, I'm willing to, compromise and to build things, into a more agreeable direction. I like that she wanted to start this with me. I like that we can talk about art. I like that we're working out the finer details. I just wish that we had more casts that we could hammer out these details with. I hope in this next year I make some more friends that I can talk to and who would be willing to show up on the podcast, because talking about art while drunk is pretty great. Talking about the internet and all that is great. Some of the topics that I want to cover in the next year is different cultural perceptions of media, as in how an American cartoon is perceived in China or Russia or France or Brazil or something like that, or how a Japanese, the values of a different show don't translate. It kind of goes under the trope Americans hate Tingle. If you go to TV tropes, it's a character that is popular in one country is absolutely hated in another. Like, Tingle is loved in Japan, apparently, but you'll be hard-pressed to find an American player of Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask who absolutely loved Tingle. Most people just he comes off as kind of like a creepy old dude who wants to stay forever young. And you'll find that everywhere. You'll be surprised who's popular and who isn't, and what resonates with people, and, like, what can seem very, like, backwards in one country is actually progressive in another. Or that, like, the values of a different country dictate how, a narrative goes. And what's meant to be seen as heroic, and what isn't, is different depending on who watches. And then in that line, it makes, like, dubs very interesting to me, honestly. Like the what the fuck sort of thing that happens when characters are given accents. Like, famously, the Yu-Gi-Oh! 4Kids dub, Bakura's British accent and Joey's Brooklyn accent had more to do with, like, those decisions had to do with, like, American perceptions of those accents and how they were equivalent to the Japanese perception of their accents in the original. And when you look at it that way, it makes sense, but, like, when you think about it, like, well, this is from Japan, why do they have these accents, kind of thing, you know? And that's something that's super freaking interesting to me, is, like, that these are things that were thought about. It wasn't just arbitrarily done, it's just, it might have been a little bit, like, misplaced. And some people don't understand that. And so on and so forth. So that's just one of the things I really want to talk about, the cultural perceptions of media, like, in other countries, and how some values don't translate, and how some societal norms don't translate, and they have to try to make that happen. And it's so... that is one topic that I am looking so forward to, and that I'm actually going to do some research and pull up some posts and talk about and try to find some good sources to put into a description before that. This is why I kind of want to start scheduling the things that we talk about, like, oh, this week we'll talk about this week we'll talk about that, and then maybe we'll switch it around depending on what the current events are, but it's also why I'd like to get a good roster of people to bring on for guest speaking. Right now, it's just, like, last minute, or, like, even, like, a day or two beforehand asking, hey, do you want to be on Sometimes Drunk this week? Or earlier in the thing, and then I ask what somebody else would like to talk about, but there are just so many topics. I just look at I just, like, talk to my friends, and I just think there's a million things we can talk about. And I love talking about these things. I get very legitimately excited about these things. I want to talk about, I want to really, really talk about how far 3D animation in terms of adaptations of 2D animated shows have come. Look at the Smurfs movie, like, back in 2000 whatever, compared to the Smurfs movie that's coming out now that's also in 3D. I love how any 3D adaptation has strayed from making these characters look realistic to making the 3D animation look like the 2D style. I think the Peanuts movie was a phenomenal example of that stylistic choice. And the tests for the Popeye movie that never happened under Genndy Tartakovsky's direction, that looked phenomenal too. Like, that would have been great. And then look at, like, 3D movies that got the whole, like, sort of feel of 2D, of 2D animation down. Like Hotel Transylvania, or, Despicable Me. Those things. Like, that's actually coming in kind of loud. Anyway. Just those kinds of things greatly interest me immensely. And I can't wait to talk about all of it. I can't wait to spend the next year, every week, talking about these things. I'm going to try to make my solocasts more easier to listen to. And I'm going to try to keep everything more focused. I'm going to try not to get as drunk as I do some weeks. After all, we're only called Sometimes Drunk. But I'd like to just bump up everything in quality, especially this, as something that's going to be a consistency in my life, and something that I plan to keep consistent. It's something that I want to have a solid foundation so that I can just build other, like, sort of solid fixtures in my life around it. And I guess that's my goal for the year, to have solid fixtures to my life, to have a routine, to have something to look forward to instead of making plans and never following through with them. That's where the self-control and the discipline comes in. And that's kind of what you have to determine. What role do these things that you want to do play in your life? What underlying habits are you going to have to instill in yourself in the long term to get these things done? But also, what does it mean for you personally? How does it enrich your own life? For me, this is going to make me learn some better self-control and discipline and help my willpower is what I want for the year. But also, I just want some stability in my life. I want my own identity, and I want to be myself as an adult. I feel like that I'm not respected as an adult in my life right now. I'm 26 years old, and when I was in San Francisco, I got a taste of what it meant to be treated like an adult, and for people to recognize me as an adult, and for people to only know me as an adult instead of holding my past over my head like it was still who I was. I left New Jersey 8 years ago, and I came back 2 years ago. And since then, I think nobody really views me or respects me as an adult here. Very few people do. Even though I have a job and I'm paying my own loans and I'm paying my own insurance and I'm paying for my own therapy. Hell, I'll even pay for my own food and all that fun stuff. But I feel like that everything that I was and all my failings and all my over-emotional outbursts as a teenager are being held over my head here, and nobody can recognize me as adult because they didn't see me go through those changes. So I think what I want to do is build an online identity, a place where I felt like I could always be honest. For me, right now, that's the most important thing, to be recognized as an adult online, and then maybe everything else will follow. I just want to assert my independence as a person. And I think at the end of the day, that's pretty much what this is all about. I'm an artist, I'm an adult, I'm an animator, a voice actor, an illustrator, a writer, a director, an editor. I want to be a music maker. I just want to do everything, man. Also, last goal of the year, finish my dang McCree scarf, man. I made a pattern for a scarf based on McCree's Serape in Overwatch, and I gotta finish that shit, man, because it is gonna be awesome, and I'm gonna be the most stylish, ill-dressed, motherfucker in New Jersey. So getting back into knitting and crafts, that'd be good. I'd like to do some more collaborations. I'd like to finish some long-standing projects. Because at the end of the day, if I work on all of this consistently, it actually shouldn't take too long. So even if something feels like it's unachievable, or like it would take too long, or like it's too far out of your range of abilities, then maybe put it off to the side. Find the stuff that is within your range of abilities. Find the stuff that is well within your reach, and just build up to it. Work on things where you have to do something you've never done before, even if it's something that's closely related to stuff you've done before. You know? Like, I really don't know how to describe it, really. But just, when in doubt, Google it. That's my advice. Google a tutorial. Google... Oof. Google a tutorial, Google the history, Google videos, Google, like, some finished results, Google stuff that's similar. Google's your friend, my friend. Google's my friend, my friend. And, pretty much everything I need, anything I've learned I can find through Google, if you just know the right word set. And here's the thing with it. Keep it to the keywords. If you can, like, parse it all down to a single word, or if you can parse all these concepts down to a single word, like, that's the best thing you can do. Don't be too specific. And keep, like, pulling out key phrases in your head if you can't find what you're looking for, because eventually you will find the right combination of words. And if I just keep that in mind, maybe I'll be able to talk to people. Right combination of words and all. And maybe, just maybe, that's the right combination of words to end this cast on. Thank you for joining me. I am Rebecca from the Sometimes Drunk podcast. Please check the description below and you will find links to my work, the Sometimes Drunk podcast Tumblr, and the ever so wonderful and lovely Joe's Soundcloud, whose music that I had just been playing for the last 15 or so minutes of this podcast. Anyway, keep an eye on the Tumblr in the future. I'll start doing some episode link dumps so that you have something to look at. Otherwise, our audience is small, but I appreciate the shit out of all of you. Have a good New Year, and I will see you in 2017. Good night, and have a good one. Happy New Year.